You are autumn now, the leaves are brown, oil from the spring.
I'm Luke Asvito. I'm Commissioner of Film, Television, and Creative Industries with Calgary Economic Development. And I've had the pleasure, if you'd call it, of working in arts and culture my entire adult career. From being 6 years at the Banff Centre to running my own business in the film and television world for close to 20 years and to now being in the position that I'm in. When I first started this position, there's, right now in the world, there's about 320 of me across the planet that do a similar job to what I do. When I first started, there was 4 of us that actually had the title of, that said Creative Industries in our title. In the past 3 years, that's now increased to almost 120 across the world. What that tells us is that when we start talking about festivals, events, we start talking about media and how we get our message out to the world and how we entertain ourselves, the talk of convergence is pretty much done. It's happened, and everything that we do intersects with everything else that we do. So what we tried to do for you today was to try to bring together a panel that was fairly diverse and puts us in a position where we can talk about some of the things that are happening here locally. When we hear all the things about Calgary that we have lately, things like, you know, cleanest city in the world and 5th best place to live in the world, number 17 on the economic financial forum that as far as how we're growing in prosperity and some of the other things that are occurring in this city, you get a lot of people kind of looking at you sideways going, yeah, whatever. When we were at Cultural Capital in 2012, I had the privilege of being on that board and spending 18 months prior to that activity happening trying to get that designation and try to fund that designation and make sure that we had the ability to showcase our artists from within to the world and also being able to bring the world to us to get involved in what we do here. It was a real interesting process for me. I have friends across the country that are in the arts and entertainment world that sit at Calgary Cultural Capital. Well, about halfway through, when they started to see the amount of money that was being invested and how we were showcasing, I think that attitude started to change. And just before I call up the panel, I just wanted to throw something out there. We hear a lot about other locations being festival city and being considered locations of culture, but I just want to give a sense of what we've done in this city in the last little while. In 2011, we had 285 events that happened that were festival or events that occurred in this city. That represented approximately 789 cultural activity days in Calgary. In 2012, with the designation, the events and festivals increased to 320, with the total event days of 840. In 2013, the estimation is that we will have 289 festival days with a total event days of 1,073 going on in this city. So that gives you a little bit of a sense of what's actually happened and what's continued to happen in our city. And we can say what we want about 2012, about the cultural capital designation, but I think what we're seeing this year is it doesn't take that designation for us to continue to grow and develop our arts and culture in this city, and I think we should be very proud of that. So on that note, I'd like to call up the 6 panelists that will be talking a little bit about what they do in their festivals, and we're going to talk a little bit about the successes and some of the challenges that we've had, and then lead into some questions. So first, I'd like to call up David Anderson, who's the Executive Director of the International Children's Festival. David? Les Semenuk, who is the General Manager of the Calgary Folk Music Festival. Brian Wong, who's the Co-President of the Calgary Chinese Merchants Association and the Chinese Street Festival. Stephen Schrader, who is the Executive Director of the Calgary International Film Festival. Stephen McHolm, who is the President and Artistic Director of Honen's International Piano Competition. And Teresa Byrne, who is the Superintendent of Event Services Culture in the City of Calgary. You got a mic over there as well? Okay, there. Okay, so we have a lot of activities that happen in the city, and sometimes we take it for granted that everybody here understands what it is that we actually do. And I know that that's not the case. There's too many activities for us to engage in all of them. Although some of us try, it's virtually impossible. So I'd like to maybe start off with here is just have each one of you give us a bit of an overview of what your festival is about and what you do and sort of how long you've been around and that sort of thing.
Thanks. The Calgary International Children's Festival just finished its 27th year of presenting theater for young audiences. Our festival is really a two-part festival. We have an outside portion of the festival where we try and engage young people in hands-on arts activities. But the majority of the festival takes place indoors in the theaters of the Epcor Centre for Performing Arts. We take over all of the theaters and some of the rehearsal halls and turn them into theaters so that we can bring in the finest in music, dance, and theater for young audiences from all over the world and share the magic of the theater with them, with all of the great lighting, sound, and all the effects that are so important to make live performing arts really accessible and magical. So, as I say, 27 years of that. I think our public profile, people think of us as what goes on Olympic Plaza, but really that's about a tenth of what the festival is really all about.
This year in July will be the 34th annual Calgary Folk Music Festival, where we sort of build Alberta's fourth largest town for 4 days on Princess Island, feed people, take care of them, give them an experience hopefully they'll never forget. And you're sitting in an expansion of what the festival is now about to do. We've been in here since September, and we're just exploring the possibilities of having our own space and doing things like this. But folk music is the catch-all that holds this organization together. We have over 1,650 volunteers who put on the actual event. We sell out, and on a Saturday night when it's sunny and Chris Christopherson walks out on stage, there's no better place to be in the world.
The Chinatown Street Festival is a byproduct of the Lions Bridge reopening in the year 2000, actually, when they had a massive festival up on Crescent Heights all the way down Center Street just days before it reopened. And the year after, City of Calgary kind of approached Calgary Chinese Merchants Association once again and said, well, hey, it was a good event. Why don't we have a Chinatown Street Festival? And that's how the name came about. Something happened in Chinatown. This August is going to be the 13th year. And we are so proud. If we trace history more, we had to go back to the 90s when we had an influx of immigrants from Hong Kong and the southern part of China. They came together with a little bit of money and lots of creativities, and I think they pulled off a 3-day Hong Kong day in the 90s. And of course, we also have Dragon Boat Festival starting up at the same time in the 90s. So kudos to a lot of those people who had the vision. But this is how Chinatown Street Festival came about, and 13 years and counting. A significant benchmark in 2010 because the Chinatown celebrated 100 years, and there was another massive celebration. Once again, the Center Street Bridge closed for a day. How lucky we are. I think according to the City of Calgary, we drew 100,000 on that day from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. So it was a significant benchmark, but moving forward, we are into the 13th year for our Chinatown Street Festival in August.
Thank you. I'm Steve Schrader. The Calgary International Film Festival was founded in 1998, although the first edition took place in 2000. So this one coming up in September 2013 will be the 14th annual. We showcase about 200 films, both features and shorts, and of all genres, in a multiplicity of series. If size impresses you, or if size is important, which I would argue it's extremely relative in the film festival world, but we'd be the largest film festival between Toronto and Vancouver. But in a world in Canada, in Canada, where I think even it's surprising how many Canadians don't realize how big Toronto is in the world of film festivals. I mean, it's like Pierre Trudeau used to say, being Canadians like sleeping in bed with an elephant, sharing North America with the States. Toronto is like, every film festival, the second biggest one compared to Toronto, is in bed with an elephant. But we run for 11 days in September, and had an excellent year last year. It's really, really good to be working for this organization, and happy to be here today.
I'm Stephen McComb. I'm the artistic director and president of the Honans International Piano Competition and Festival. So Honans is a piano-based chamber music festival and an international piano competition. Some of you, if you know it, the competition happens every 3 years, and it began in 1992 with a gift of a Calgarian who was an amateur pianist and wanted to see the city known for something more than cowboys and oil. So she left a $5 million gift to start a foundation to present this triennial now international piano competition, and it now awards the biggest prize in the world, $100,000 cash, and a $500,000 career development program for the winner, who is an emerging concert artist aged 20 to 30. And the competition is now known more as a festival, and in fact we'll be beginning an annual festival starting in non-competition years in 2014 with the Honans 2014, and then known as Honans 2015.
Hello, I'm Teresa Burnham with the City of Calgary. I work within the Culture Division of the Recreation Department. Within our Culture Division, we have public art, we have a cultural diversity section, and the group that I lead is our event services. Over the last many years, I've worked with pretty much all of these gentlemen on the panel on their various events and festivals, along with my team to help support. With the city, our role essentially is we work with you behind the scenes. We assist in ensuring that you are putting together the best possible event that you can, looking at all the various components and really working through all those things that we don't know what we don't know. Legislations, bylaws, all those really fun, loving things that we necessarily need to get through, but at the end of the day, when our patrons come to enjoy the events, they go home having had a good time, not knowing any differently.
What we do fairly consistently is we look at what opportunities there are to enhance and help grow the festivals and events that happen in the city of Calgary. And on that, we spend a lot of time trying to determine how and what we need to do to try to create an ease of operation, if you will, for these events, and how we can supplement some of the activities and help them grow. So I think one of the things I'd like to maybe throw out to the panel is about our challenges in Calgary. Although we've seen lots of growth and lots of development in this area, with that comes a lot of challenges. So maybe if you folks can speak to some of those things that you're dealing with, I'm sure they're going to be different from person to person.
Well, this is an interesting city. I've been here for 30 years now. I passed it through like everybody else, and I'm still here. But it's a great place to build stuff. And when we started, the festivals and the city had not an adversarial relationship, but, oh man, another festival, what a pain in the ass they are. Hey, wait a minute, these things are good. The last 10 years have been amazing when the city did a turnaround and to support. Yet we're still living with some of the decisions we made. Princess Island, half the people wanted a wilderness experience in downtown Calgary, and half the people wanted an urban place for all the events. So we got an island split in half. Half is a wilderness, yeah, right. And the other half is not quite what it could be if it was actually focused as the center of the city's events. There's not enough power. I have to bring in gray water trucks to take out stuff. I know there's a sewer there, but I'm running a bush camp in downtown Calgary. So there are things that can always be better. And what I've learned is patience, that every year we progress. The city's been wonderful to work with, and I can see things. We're getting a sewer this year. We won't have to haul out water for the first time in 14 years in my experience. So there's always challenges, and we're trying to make the best experience for, first, the people that attend the festival, second, the volunteers who put their heart and soul into putting on the festival, the performers that come from all over the world. And it's amazing when they have a good time, they ask, what can we do to help you? And all we say is, please talk about us to your friends. Chris Christopherson, if you can talk to Waylon, that's all we ask of you. Tell them if we call, it's worth coming to. And that's what we all do together by making a city that's worth coming to. And that's what when I travel, I look and see what they have. And all of us here are trying to make a better Calgary.
I could also talk about a couple opportunities, although I'm sure you're going to ask about those, because I think in some ways the opportunities illustrate what the challenges are. I've had the privilege of working for a couple of festivals in the city. Before the Calgary International Film Festival, I had the privilege of working on the High Performance Rodeo, One Yellow Rabbit's High Performance Rodeo. And I think that for those of us who have had the chance to work on more than one festival, we see that there are Calgary dynamics that are both opportunities and challenges, but each individual festival has the challenges of its own particular medium it tries to represent. So, for example, one of the great things about Calgary is that because of our geographical position, there's a lot of focus, and I think this might be true in some other parts of Alberta and prairie cities where there's a tremendous increasing investment, by the local. By the local citizenry in their festivals, because we have the sense of ownership. We're not a 2 hours drive from 4 cities larger than we are, right? Or by this great, we're not on the East Coast. And I think that's the pride that we get around that is huge. But that's a challenge too, because when we want to draw as festivals from people who are within a day's drive of us, we don't have the same sort of rubber tire traffic population, and that's something that I think we've seen festivals in points east in North America be able to benefit from. From a film perspective, one of the things that's been most fascinating, I've been doing a lot of research on this recently, is that, if you go back to the 70s when the Sundances and the TIFFs of the world were founded, there really were still well under 50 film festivals, and really only a couple dozen film festivals in the world that were of any significance. And in the 80s, it started to gain steam. And in the 90s, it really started to gain steam. And you saw Sundance in Toronto begin to exponentially grow, and many others. And now, by the mid 2000s, there were over 2,000 international film festivals in the world. Now, by some counts, there's 5,000 or 6,000. So, it's incredible to be in this world where there's this. It really is a global push and pull between everybody involved. And where the mediums are going is really also hard to predict. People in the industry who've been there for a long time don't even know where it's all going. So to try and ride this out and yet make a viable festival locally, just through selling tickets and doing all the things that we all do, it's to live in both those worlds, the global world and the local world and the film industry world is really incredible and full of challenge, but tons of fun.
Well, our organization is an anomaly compared to most of the other festivals. We're a foundation, and we exist to help launch the career of a young artist. And it's an international artist, so it won't necessarily be a young Canadian artist. But whoever's discovered here in Calgary has the mark of Calgary and the mark of Canada. Not tattooed, but could do that if there's a sponsor in the room. So our revenue, and because we have a competition or a festival every 3 years, our revenue from ticket sales is very low. So it's about 7 or 8% of our revenue over 3 years. 20% of our revenue comes from the Esther Honens Endowment. 23% comes from corporate Calgary. Another 23% comes from individual donations. So and almost nothing comes from government. It's less than 10%. So, and that's the 3 levels of government altogether. So we're in a very different situation than most of the other festivals, where earned revenue is a big part of what drives them and keeps them going. So it's all about relationship building, and for us, it's all about making Calgary look great, because most of our activity, when we aren't presenting the festival, is launching the career of young artists. So we're managing the career of someone that we've discovered, presenting them at Carnegie Hall, presenting them at Wigmore Hall, touring them around the world, and working with our partners in other parts of the world who want to do business in Calgary. So wherever we're going, we're saying, hey, we're waving the Calgary flag, whether it's a Russian pianist or not. And when Terry Rock said to me earlier on the way in, hey, are you going to be in New York or London on Canada Day? Well, no, I'm not, but I have an artist in New York and I have an artist in London who represents Calgary and represents Honans. So it's a very different model, but it's a way, we're finding a lot of success as this goes along, because with economic development strategies and with tourism strategies, it really helps for us to be one of the only organizations that has this international footprint.
Teresa, maybe turn it over to you. There's there's a fine line that the city sort of walks, and the growth potential and what's happened over the last few years, but then also from the perspective of how much support can actually be allocated. So can you talk a little bit about that? And
Sure. I mean, that's one of the, obviously, the challenges that we're dealing with, is looking at a multitude of requests from a diverse group of individuals who are looking for a variety of things with a finite amount of resources. So really it comes down to determining how best we can utilize those resources to look at a wide lens, to look at the trends and the gaps of what citizens are looking for and how we can best support them. So within that, it's coming up with a variety of different mechanisms, looking at our various stakeholders, who has what has into play, and leading then towards how we can look at defining that culture. Because we talk about the major arts festivals, but then we also look at the culture of our running community. We look at our community cultural components and all the communities that are coming out with our various cultural events and activities. And the beauty that we have is we have a wonderful lens of looking at a variety of different events. We get everything from the mom and pop who are calling us while they're making dinner with their kids, trying to go over their building permit application, to the staff who work full-time because they're in an organization that has been fluent and affluent to be able to build and establish themselves significantly within the city. So trying to really find that balance between how the leveraging is to get a wide variety of opportunities for Calgarians to come and participate in, to sustain and maintain those that have been able to build and define components of Calgary's culture, but also then look at the new and up-and-coming stakeholders and opportunities for people who want to build and grow new ideas to continue to reinvent Calgary as it becomes the vibrant city that we've grown to know and love.
okay. So we just went through the cultural capital year. Massive amount of activity going on. Some days, too many activities to be able to get to. How has that affected the festivals and events? Has it had a positive impact? Is there expectations now of growth and development that we're going to need to supplement with extra money? What are you seeing after 2012?
Yeah, I just want to chime in, maybe a carry over from the previous question as well. The challenge is the exhaustion of the excitement when we see so many festivals and it becomes same old, same performance all over again, and it becomes a parody of game rather than creating a niche for every one of us. So moving forward is to how to create a brand so that people come to us and make a momentum moving forward. With regards to Calgary 2012, to the Chinatown Street Festival, we did not really feel an impact negatively. We felt that more people are engaged and they're talking about arts. In the Chinese community, there are a lot of pretty unique art that is like martial arts, kung fu, tai chi that you cannot find, maybe you could not find in other festivals, Chinese opera. Now we are creating English versions for that, so come over. So you can really, in full costumes and sing a song. A karaoke version, doesn't matter. We can have we can have anything you want. It's creating a niche, but Calgary 2012 means a lot to other festivals, to Chinatown Street Festival. It means there are more activities adjacent to, say, Epcot Center, the Plaza, all the way to here, Princess Island Park, and then Chinatown itself. As a merchants association, the organizer, we also want to see people so that businesses are benefited from it. So we see a positive sign from a different perspective, not from our festival perspective, but from the people who are excited, who want to come out, catch a theater, catch a musical, and then they come over to Chinatown to enjoy dim sum or something. That's my perspective.
I think the 2012 initiative, what it did is really created a new awareness that there were things in Calgary to look around and see. And I think that for the Children's Festival, it gave people an opportunity when they were looking around at all of the things that were happening in Calgary, that they saw us again as something that they may have missed, or gotten used to the fact that we're just there, and you kind of, it's always there and it's always been there. The festival is a real gateway opportunity for families and young people to experience the arts for the first time. And I think through the 2012 initiative, all of those things are brought out in front of the public, and I think the public were looking around more and exploring more, and it was certainly gave people an opportunity to come and try something that they hadn't seen before at a festival, or to revisit a festival and find out what's going on.
I think that's the key point. Something like 2012 is those events happened because there was some seed money, and there was that year we all looked at it, but it's awareness. Lots of stuff is happening in this town. Lots of stuff has always been happening in this town, but this town is growing and more things are happening. And when I just want to make it clear that when we all say the city especially supports us, they're not giving us more money. They're actually supporting us by changing some of the rules, by making things easier to happen, by taking some people and teaching them how to put on a safe event with cooperation from the police and the fire and the medical people. Because a lot of community residents are going, well, we're going to put on a show. Yeah, what if someone has a heart attack? What if a stage collapses in a windstorm? What's your plan? I need a plan. So that's where the cities come leaps and bounds. Because again, for the festival, a third of our money comes from the customers, 10% comes from government, all three levels as grants. We have sponsors, and we have corporate sponsors and individual donors. And we put it all together. But it's the support in the last 10 years that's changed, where the attitude is, you are important. Not, you really want to change, we can't, if we did this for you, we'd have to do it for everybody. No, you don't. You have to do it for us for 4 days in July. No one even has to know you're doing it. And that's the attitude that has changed. We're important enough to be helped rather than going, what do they want now?
Yeah, that's how it works, eh, Teresa? Just everybody comes in, just you only have to do it for us. Yeah, yeah. Stephen?
One of the things that I was just thinking about last night, actually, as I was reviewing some of the tweets from the from the presentation to City Council, was the stats around the numbers of Calgarians who participated in 2012 activities, and even many who received grants. I think it was, Luke could correct me if I got the number, it was something like, it was in the 70s, the percentage of individual Calgarians who were funded to do something for the Cultural Capital Year, who had never received any kind of grant event, at all. And so I look at that and I go, I know that some larger festivals and professional arts organizations in the city got grants out of 2012, but in fact, I think if the established professional arts and festivals in the city had been the first to go, great, we're feeling the love and the money from this, I actually think that something would be wrong. I think 2012 was about was seeding something wider than what exists. I think what exists already, and I'm a big, given my professional life to it, so I think it's great. But I think that we're actually playing a much longer game in terms of citizens' engagement as participants, attendees, creators themselves in this kind of a thing. So very happy with how that turned out, and I think it was great.
Okay. Please do.
So just to add to that, in some respects he is correct in that events that have grown and developed and put themselves into a situation where they are responsible, they are effective, and have the ability to be able to then push those boundaries and to try new things, definitely those are the things that we're consistently looking for and working within the City of Calgary as we build this as our core business within the corporation. With that too, coming with not only the time and the reputation, but those things do cost money as well. And with Calgary 2012, I think that was actually one of the key components that did come out of that as well, was the whole Invest YYC. People starting to understand that these are businesses that are being run, and it does take money in order for people to be able to do these things. That at the end of the day, the return on investment becomes tremendous, to the point of, yes, some dollars and cents, but also within the soul development and how that then builds a city and brings more people into that city.
We had a comment earlier on that was being made around return on investment, and how you gauge that, and how you have something tangible to show the funders and governments and stuff that support. And there was a comment yesterday that came from the report that was done in 2012 that said that the 2012 had a 300% return on YYC's investment. So from the perspective of being able to show value on what monies are going in, that's a pretty significant number in the scheme of things, no matter what type of sector you're in or what kind of business you're in. So I think that's pretty impressive.
Luke, what I'd say about return on investment, I've been working for the festival for very many years, and I've tried to find my place, why I do this and where I fit into it. Well, I think after all of the years that I've worked at the festival, the return on investment that I see has nothing to do with money. It's generally, I'll see maybe 4 or 5 children during the festival that you suddenly see the light went on. They have suddenly connected with something they've seen or done, and realized how they're the same as somebody else, or how they're different than somebody else, or that there is art out there to be enjoyed, that there's a chance to make a living in the arts. But the rewards and the return on investment, it really is seeing the lights go on in young minds that suddenly realize the world has suddenly opened up in front of them. And we also see at the festival, sometimes you think of it as a destination, and it's kind of egocentric. We're putting on this great show, and kids are coming and enjoying the show, and that's where they're getting some great experiences. But when we talk to people that come as part of our outreach program, schools that come that are sponsored by others, and we get feedback, we get cards and thank you letters and things like that. Some of the most amazing things that you hear and discover is that a child may come to the festival for that, the purpose of seeing a show, and you find out and hear things like, that's the first time I ever saw a skyscraper. Or, that's a bridge, I saw a bridge. That within our own community of Calgary, the arts and festivals as destinations for young people mean so much more than what is at the end, at the festival end. It's the whole experience of getting there and all of the things on the way there, while they're there, and on their way home. And that return on investment is joy, happiness, and I think in many cases, lifelong lovers of the arts.
Yeah, just in terms of return on investment, I've just gone through a whole strategic planning session with my board who really want to know what is the return on investment? Because most of them are individual donors or corporate donors or sponsors. For us last year, we did a media junket to bring a lot of international journalists to Calgary to see what was going on here. And not to offend anyone else at the table here, but one of the journalists, one of the articles was Honans is one of 2 cultural events in Calgary one of 2 cultural events that puts Calgary on the map. The other one's an annual rodeo. So for us, that's a real, that's a key performance indicator, is that we're.
To what extent do you think your ability to be successful with your festivals has been your ability to engage youth?
For us, it's the only thing that matters. I'm 60 years old. I've made a living in folk music for 40 years with the CBC and festivals. And I see people catching the bug and now are in their 30s and 40s making a living, and there's new ones coming in. And that's the most important part, to see a kid get it. He didn't like folk music till he came to the folk festival, or he grew up at the folk festival and knew all about it, and now he's a volunteer, or she's a volunteer. It's all about engaging young people, because you can't just keep putting on the same show for the same people. We're all going to die eventually. And, you know, I used to be at the center of the music business, and I knew what was going on. There are people in town playing now because of the media. They're not even telling me that they're doing their stuff. So the world is always about renewing all of us. You know, every festival needs to renew itself and change with the times.
I remember going to an event at Volunteer Calgary when they're talking about engagement, and that is to really make people excited and feel good. And from a phrase, you are in a festival business, or in a business of festivals, or business of entertainment. You gotta have an approach. From what I experienced the first year, Chinatown Street Festival in the year 2000, I was like a barricade keeper. I was like picking up garbage at the end of the day, a long day, and that's my first year, and it kind of planted the seed in me. So a few loops after, and came back as an advisor, with ideas. So our board look at youth engagement is more than just look at age, but it's look at ideas. And we have to make sure every single idea will be assessed. And in the same time, we ask the question, you're able or you're willing to do. If you're not able to do, we'll train you. If you're willing to do, we'll make you better. If you're able and you're also willing to do it, which is the best, these are my competitors as well, because there are only so many people who have time in summertime and who are willing to put up so much time for a festival, for a big festival is a big logistic. But I think I see a lot of leadership building in the process. If you have that, you could create a chance to have a succession plan for your festival.
I was wondering if you might want to speak to the importance or the difference between bringing back your core audience versus doing something really innovative and new and inspiring and bringing in a new audience to your festival.
I think the Children's Festival is different than other festivals in that our audience is always new. About every 4 years, we really turn them over. However, we're presenting performances for young people and their families, but the people that actually pay for the tickets are their parents, and they're the ones that will decide, or schools will decide. So it's really important to us to keep on innovating. Each year we're asked what's new at the festival, and each year we say everything is new at the festival, because you don't want to keep on bringing back the same old stuff. Children are growing, there are lots and lots of things out in the world to see, but the people that are paying for the tickets and are making those decisions are adults, and they have to be engaged as well. So it's really important to keep on re-engaging those ticket buyers.
It also raises another problem, because the festival has been here, the folk festival is 34 years old. People that played at the first one, a lot of them are at the tail end of their careers, but they're still playing. They're competing with gigs with their kids. They're competing with gigs for all the people they inspired in the audience. And John Warren Hanneman was one. When he first played the folk festival, he said, you know, I sat here 10 years ago with my girlfriend, and I said, I'm going to play that stage. But the festival isn't hiring more people. We've expanded from 50 to 70 acts. There's a couple more bars in town that have music. But the influx, schools are churning out artists. Artists are inspiring kids to try arts. That's where I think, I don't know what's going to happen. Things are going to change because these standard models of this is how it's done. That's why we're always thinking outside the box, trying to come up with something new. What's a different way of doing this? Plus, satisfy people who are going, I love that guy. How come you haven't brought him back? And that guy is actually a vital artist who's not doing the same thing he was doing 5 years ago. He's got a whole new batch of art to show you. It's not an easy thing to, I pity artistic directors because they mostly say no. They say yes to who they've picked, but they've had 10,000 people try and get into this festival, or any festival.
I'm sort of at the opposite spectrum of David, where it's all young kids, and and we're not all young kids from classical music, but we have young kids. But I am reminded of a story. I was talking to another classical music presenter in Canada who said, well, we've been working on a capital campaign, and we've got enough money, we figure, to keep us going really strong for another 5 years. And by then, all of our patrons will be dead. So then we can make a change. And I thought, oh man, that's a strange way to approach audience development. But it's essential, especially for an organization that is donor-based. You have to have a broad base of audience, and you have to be always thinking innovatively and creating new innovative programs. Like, we're starting to do late night programming where it's classical and post-classical music, where it may be a classical musician, but collaborating with an electronic musician or a DJ like Gabriel Prokofiev, who's Prokofiev's grandson, who works with classical musicians. We have to do that because we recognize that, all the kids that were at Luke's Drug Mart last weekend, well, we need them too. And as they mature and as they, their tastes change, we want to be there for them. So we have to be part of this whole mix. And what makes an arts organization and a festival most interesting is innovation and trying things new and pushing the buttons and arguing with your board of directors to say, hey, we need to try something new. And our business is risk. So let's take a risk and let's do something exciting.
Okay. We've got time for one more question if there's... Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Carlos Marquez. I am an overall coordinator of 10-day bicycle festival, an independent bicycle festival that takes place here in the city. It's called Cyclepalooza. And my question is, what advice can you give to smaller independent festival like us? Like, what is the role that big established festivals play in creating, helping smaller ones or starting festivals in the city?
Well, I could take a stab at that. I mean, in between working at One Yellow Rabbit and coming to work with the film festival, I had the pleasure and the challenge of working. One of my consulting gigs was to work with, Luke was part of it and Teresa was part of it, and worked on the some of the implementation of the festival and event policy, and gathering a lot of data that hadn't been gathered before on festivals and events. And the first thing that we learned was, oh my God, they're unbelievably diverse. I mean, Teresa hinted at it. So it's there isn't a sort of a one-to-one necessarily answer to your question, but here's what I would say. What I have noticed is that there's an opportunity for some of the somewhat larger festivals to actually be places where folks who are organizing other smaller festivals to perhaps come in and engage, pick up some skills, possibly work on a contract with that festival. Even volunteering. Volunteering is huge, right? Some of the festivals, like the Folk Festival being my favorite example, has an extremely well thought out and structured volunteering system. So I know people who have gone to, who are now working as professionals in the festival and event world, who actually learned about how festivals run by volunteering for the Folk Festival, right? So I think that what I would encourage is that people who want to start a festival, work on a festival, if you don't have kind of the infrastructure already, find another festival that might have the ability to take you in as a volunteer, give you some training. Possibly that might even lead to some kind of a contract or employment at some point. And often those people go back and filter back in and then make their own events so much better. I mean, Brenda Lieberman, who runs the Calgary Underground Film Festival now, also cut her teeth at CIF, at the Calgary International Film Festival, and one year came to work and on a very small contract at the High Performance Rodeo, and for you guys, right? And now she's running one of the most exciting new festivals, not really new anymore, 10 years, but one of the most exciting festivals that went from tiny to really, really, really viable. So I'd say be part of the ecosystem. Find another festival that resonates with you, or two or three of them, and find a way to engage with those. And you'll pick up a wide bag of tricks, I think.
A lot of people come to us. We've never turned anybody away. Our board has mentored boards who've asked for it. We've had people, like I say, if you want to run a volunteer, come work with our volunteer coordinator and be a volunteer, and then you will learn how to run 1,600 volunteers. So please feel free to call and tell us what you're having trouble with. If we can't help you, we can steer you to the right people.
And even beyond volunteering, you know, if you have, you should be calling other festivals and saying, hey, how can we work together? It's partnerships, and come and have a coffee and brainstorm about, you know, you've got bicycle festival. Well, how can we make that work with the film festival? Well, you know, there must be something, right, Steve?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The other thing I think you want to think about is also talking to the city. You know, talking to Teresa's group, who really does understand fully what's necessary to make a festival successful from the perspective of the logistics. So I think it's a two-phase kind of scenario, getting involved with the festivals as they exist, understand what they do, but also understand the side from the city's perspective as well, what they can help you with and how they can help move your festival forward. So I'd like to thank the panel. I think myself as a Calgarian, I'm proud of what you folks do, and proud to play a small part of it when I can, and the other festivals in the city. And I think I'm very excited about what I see happening here in Calgary, and being a long-term Calgarian, you know, I'm happy to see things growing and developing, and hope that you guys continue to be successful. And thanks very much for being here tonight.
Thank you.